It started with what seemed like a second chance. After years of marriage and a painful divorce, Melissa Stiff thought maybe, just maybe, her ex-husband, David, was trying to make things right. They had 3 children together, 2 of whom still lived at home. A year after their split, David approached her with what sounded like a practical, even generous, proposal. He wanted to buy a house, and he invited Melissa and the girls to move in with him. For a family that had been through emotional storms, it felt like a calm after the chaos. But as Judge Judy would later say, if you could get along, it would have been a win-win. The problem was, they couldn't. Melissa had been renting a home for $900 a month, surviving on $952 in monthly child support and the remains of an inheritance from her late mother. When David suggested they live together again, not as a couple but as co-parents under one roof, it made financial sense. He would buy the home in her name, but they would both live there. The mortgage would be $2,400 a month, but instead of paying her child support, David would simply let her and the girls live there, rent-free. On paper, it was brilliant. Melissa would save nearly $1,000 a month. David would no longer be paying child support. Both would share the house. Both would save money. And their daughters would benefit from a stable home. But logic doesn't erase history. And this house would soon become a battlefield of memories, resentment, and money. The house, valued at $468,000, was placed solely in Melissa's name. David helped arrange the purchase by taking out a loan from his 401k. But there was a problem. He already had an outstanding 401k loan, and to get a new one, that old balance needed to be cleared. Desperate to move forward, David turned to the one person he shouldn't have asked, Melissa. She had just received a $90,000 inheritance and was waiting on her disability hearing. Out of what she described as hope for a better start, she agreed to help. On November 1st, 2013, she wrote him a $5,000 check so he could pay off the existing loan and secure the new one for the house. To her, it was a loan, money that David was supposed to repay. To him, it was a contribution, a gesture of good faith from a woman who wanted to be part of something mutual. In court, their stories clashed like fire and gasoline. David insisted she offered the money voluntarily, that she kept pushing him to take it, saying she wanted to help. Melissa countered that it wasn't charity, it was business. She even showed the canceled check, proof that he cashed it almost immediately, contradicting his claim that he held onto it for weeks. For a few months, they played house again. Melissa, her daughters, and even her older daughter's boyfriend lived there. David tried to manage expenses while still carrying the weight of the mortgage. Melissa, whose disability income had run out, claimed she covered all the utilities for the first 6 months. David said otherwise, insisting she stopped contributing altogether after spring, leaving him to handle nearly everything: mortgage, bills, food, and chaos. The air in that 3,000-square-foot home above Castaic Lake grew thicker with tension each day. Then came the fights. Loud, bitter, exhausting confrontations that stripped away any illusion of peace. The biggest eruption happened over money, specifically the same $7,000 David still owed Melissa from their divorce asset equalization. He had promised to pay it once he turned 59 and a half, when he could draw from his retirement funds without penalty. But Melissa didn't want to wait. She pressed him again and again, demanding repayment. According to David, one evening the argument escalated. He said she followed him into his bedroom, waving papers in his face, yelling, hitting him in the chest, and even slapping him. He claimed he backed away, shut the door, and she screamed that he'd tried to push her down the stairs. Later, when he thought it was over, she allegedly ran up and struck him across the head. Melissa told it differently. She said he was the aggressor, that she went to show him paperwork for their financial agreement. And when she asked for it back, he pushed her so hard she fell to the floor, nearly tumbling down the staircase. Their teenage daughter came running, crying for them to stop. Melissa admitted she lost her temper later and slapped him once, out of pure frustration, while he shouted over and over, "Go ahead. I dare you!" When they stood before Judge Judy, neither looked proud. Melissa had sued David for $5,000, claiming it was a loan he never repaid. David counterclaimed for unpaid bills and assault. Each accused the other of lying. Melissa said she covered utilities for 6 months. David said she didn't pay a dime after March. He wanted $325 a month from her for 5 months, half of what he estimated the bills were. He also demanded compensation for the alleged assault. Melissa said she didn't owe him anything, and that her check was a clear loan, not a gift. Judge Judy, as always, saw through the fog of emotion. She dissected their stories with precision, her tone slicing through excuses like a knife through silk. She reminded Melissa that her ex-husband was no longer her financial responsibility, and reminded David that a promise to repay money wasn't something that vanished just because emotions got messy. The math was simple, even if their relationship wasn't. He owed her $5,000. She owed him something for utilities. Judge Judy estimated $1,750. Subtract one from the other, and the final judgment was $3,250 in Melissa's favor. But numbers only tell part of the story. The real loss was deeper. What began as an attempt to rebuild stability for their children turned into another chapter of bitterness, mistrust, and humiliation. They weren't husband and wife anymore, but neither could let go of the old habits, the power struggles, the resentment, the need to be right. Their daughters watched as old wounds reopened, as their parents fought not over love or custody, but over who paid for electricity and who wrote which check. In the end, the house that was supposed to unite them only reminded them why they'd fallen apart in the first place. Melissa walked out of court with $3,250, but no satisfaction. David walked away with less money and more resentment. And the daughters? They saw what happens when two people who once built a life together can't stop fighting over the ruins. Judge Judy's gavel came down with a sharp crack. Judgment for the plaintiff. It was over. But as Melissa stepped out of that courtroom, she knew that justice didn't heal everything. Some debts are financial, others are emotional, and sometimes no court can collect on those.